I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about RX Nephew, RX Papi, the heat wave smothering the Pacific Northwest. We're going to talk about Chris Paul, finally, at long last, making it to the NBA Finals. But first, let's find out how Andrew Kuo is doing on this dreary afternoon in New York City. Kuo, how are you doing, buddy?
Nothing dreary about it, man. Today is incredible. It's another perfect day, even more perfect than yesterday. I feel amazing, man. House hunting in Newark, New Jersey, to be exact.
Yeah, I think you'd be good as a Newarker. Is that what they're called? People in Newark, New Jersey?
Newarker.
Newarker? Or Newarkians?
Mm-hmm.
Newarkies.
Yeah. It's loosely based around the famous literary journal called the Newarker magazine.
I have not spent much time in Newark, New Jersey, other than waiting in traffic to get onto a bridge that would take you into Manhattan. I know Kat Marnell, Cookie's gossip correspondent, has sung its praises as a uniquely cool place, very underrated. So shout out to Newark. And we're bringing this up because we just saw the trailer for David Chase's The Many Saints of Newark, which is the Tony Soprano prequel, the origin mythology of Mr. Young Gabagool himself, Tony Soprano.
Yeah, man, it was bombastic. There was threatening music. There are a lot of shots where they zoom into maybe recognizable actors. Many good recognizable actors, and James Gandolfini's actual son, right?
That is his son, and he resembles a young Tone.
Yeah, a little Tone. He does. He's kind of a great casting for this. What do you think of the little teaser we got? 2 minutes.
I didn't love the teaser, but it felt as if the point was not to let you know how good this was going to be, but that there were an array of characters and violence and drama.
Which is funny, right? Because when you think about The Sopranos, you don't think about an array of violence and drama. You think about like super complicated, funny characters, and there's cool killings. Like don't get me wrong, I love a good killing story. A little murder on my TV is...
You love a good death.
Yeah, man. Just like whether it's in Easttown, Newark, I'll just take it all, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the trailer made it look like a shoot 'em up, which The Sopranos was absolutely not.
No. It's like it didn't have any of the Freudian stuff in it. There was no suggestion of any like psychology or like weird family stuff. It was just like you dare betray me, I'm the boss. And then like, oh shit, does he come back and get the boss? Find out.
It's tough to do that without James Gandolfini, the god. Because if he was alive, he could not play his younger version of himself. But Tony is such a compelling, amazing, arresting figure that he could do nothing. You could just have a movie trailer showing James Gandolfini in a robe walking out to get his newspaper, and you're like, this rules. Look, the ducks are out there. This is insane. Yeah. With his son, you're like, oh yeah, this guy kind of looks like him. Can he act? Can he do anything? We don't care about his son off the bat, so they almost were forced into making it like some cops and robbers, mafioso.
I'm worried
bloodshed.
about my son. Yeah. Remember years ago when they were trying to figure out like facial mapping, and Final Fantasy had just come out, the animated one, and they were saying like, yo, in 10 years we can have like a Bruce Lee movie starring Bruce Lee, a new one, and all we would have to do is just like digitally map his face onto someone else. That never really quite happened, right? Like there are no hoverboards out there. I thought everyone would be doing like kickflips with hoverboards from Back to the Future, but like we're not getting these.
They've done it
movies.
with aging, right? They've
Ooh,
made
yeah.
De
Scorsese.
Niro look younger, and they've made people look older.
But it didn't work, right? Like, did you believe that stuff?
No, I did not find it particularly convincing. At the same time, you've seen those the videos of like Tom Cruise that aren't real.
I mean, that's incredible, but that's on our computer and like 72 DPI and all that stuff, right?
I'm just saying that technology seems like it will get there. Whether it can make someone be a good actor, I don't know. Like, you can make it appear as if Tom Cruise is saying these things and doing these things, but is that anywhere close to, say, a dramatic role?
It's so hard to tell, right? Like, getting some, like a CGI figure to walk believably is incredibly hard. So I don't know how they're going to get like an Oscar-worthy performance out of Bruce Lee, but I'm ready.
Right. Bring back everybody.
Yeah, who do you want to see come back?
Clark Gable.
Humphrey Bogart.
Richard Pryor. Like, oh my God, everybody's in this thing.
I mean, that would be kind of cool.
John Leguizamo. What?
John
And he's
Leguizamo,
alive.
he's still alive.
And he's alive.
Dude, I've been watching all the Terminators over, and Arnold shows up in like multiple ones again, like CGI'd, like smoothed out young version, to, you know, as the finale reveal. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. It looks good. They always like block out his junk strategically. You can't really have a fight scene with like a naked robot and not see his junk. It's just like every scene is like very strategically shot. Like,
Which,
oh,
of
there's a
course,
shadow.
makes them very distracting.
Yeah.
Because you're like, look, I'm not here to see his junk, but how are you going to potentially hide his junk for a 3-minute fight scene?
How is this going to be an authentic fight scene between a robot from the future and Eddie Furlong 5 if we can't see some junk?
Like, I don't believe this if there's not just like at least some swinging junk here and there.
Yeah, and this is like, you know, I don't know what everyone's definition of junk is. You get to see his wagon. The wagon's out, you know, it's driving free. It's doing donuts in the parking lot. But the junk, the front side junk is like, it's obscured by like a weapon or a shadow or like a piece of machinery.
Well,
you know.
no one is confusing junk with junk in the trunk here. We know what you
Are
mean
you
when
sure?
you say
Yeah,
junk.
okay, yes. But there is junk in the trunk too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of film as well.
Shout out to Chris Paul.
So, not enough junk is your major complaint. Other than that, it seems real.
Yeah, the Sopranos trailer, my review is not enough junk.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. We don't get to see young Tony's junk.
Or it's just a crazy that N beer, glass of N beer is strategically placed in front of his junk.
At all times.
Yeah.
It did not make me more excited for it, but I also was not that excited to begin with. So I think my overall takeaway is like, it still could be cool. I don't know why everything was in that very popular blue tint, as our friend Nick Ketchtubbs pointed out. Like tone, it's this blue tint they're putting on everything these days.
It's tone. It's double tone Dondra. But I think how are they gonna do this? Like, they weren't gonna give us what we wanted, which would be like a really complex kind of sequel or prequel to kind of like a still moving show, right? It wasn't like quick cuts or action based. Again, you got the killing, but like it was a slow burn kind of show, and that was its charm and its like ominous vibe. This one just had to be like a bunch of like Guy Ritchie stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that was the problem, that with the trailer, the movie itself might be great. It's a movie, right? It's not.
I believe it's a movie.
It's not a series. I think it's a movie.
Which is a bummer. It should be a series, right?
I agree, because it allows for some of that character development and the slow burn. But I do trust David Chase. I don't think he would put his name on like another Sopranos vehicle unless he was confident that it would be good. And he is talented at writing. And he made The Sopranos, which is evidence of that.
You're really burning my gabagool.
I love when they say that.
Classic Chase. Yeah.
But my issue is that he might have been more freed, more liberated if he did a show that was not specifically about young Tony, because we know who else has to be in that. Oh, you have to have the other young versions of these characters. So there's a young Livia, there's a young Paulie Walnut. It's like you have to keep going back into that Sopranos universe because we know eventually what it ends up being.
Yeah.
I feel like doing a movie that was like, yeah, it's the Johnny Sack story.
Yeah.
And then you show his junk.
You're brave enough to take the junk away from like the bottle right strategically placed in front of the junk.
But like the Johnny Sack story, how he became like, the boss of New York City. That would be cool because we don't really know the other characters, and maybe you'd see a young Tone at some point or an Uncle Junior. Yeah. They could be in there as cameos, but you're building another story that's a universe outside of the one that's already familiar with the many, many saints of Newark, which include like Bam Adebayo.
But the issue, I thought about that too, because Vera Farmiga is in this Sopranos prequel, but she's also one of the main actors in the Conjuring world, and I was just educated by this whole world of Conjuring. I don't watch scary movies because I get scared of them and they stick with me, so I can't really watch any of this supernatural shenanigans. But there's the Conjuring, and then I didn't know that Annabelle evil doll movies were attached to the Conjuring, and there's like the Conjuring movies jump around in time and reality, and there's a dozen of them, and people have been ranking them on Twitter, and I didn't know it was so big, and I was into it. But
I don't know what The Conjuring is. I've seen the title pop up on whether it's HBO or Netflix or wherever it's streaming online, and I didn't know if it was a series or a movie or a series of movies or if it was good. I don't really watch that much horror. I'm not opposed to horror. I think horror is kind of a cool genre. I don't really watch a ton of it.
It died with like 90s rap and rhyming. The Cypher. It had its heyday, right? In the 70s.
Horrorcore, yes. The Flatliners.
Wow, Flatliners was the first one you said. Amazing.
Yeah.
Is that even a horror movie? We can get into the
Gravediggers, sure.
What?
No, I'm talking about horrorcore, your favorite rap genre.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the Julia Roberts movie.
Also good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, actually, Flatliners as a group were not good. So the also good really only applies to the movie Flatliners.
The Gravediggers, that first album is like one of my favorite things ever.
I feel like there was a couple other groups that sort of fit that same genre at the time.
Helter Skelter?
Name-wise, but they didn't really rap like that.
Come on, they were vampires on their album cover.
I know, but that's not how they rapped, though.
True. They were more of the Stony Bros.
I mean, Onyx a little bit.
What? Onyx was horrorcore?
No, but they were all tied together. Like, Flatliners did a lot of the yelling and rapping, and Onyx sort of rapped the same way, like super extreme content, except Flatliners were like, what about like murder and Satan and shit.
I like that.
Onyx was not a horrorcore group. I just meant it was that energy of that era, like early 90s. Like, how do you make rap more extreme when you're coming from the East Coast when you're trying to compete with West Coast gangster rap?
Yeah, it was a whole thing. Remember that movie Tales from the Hood? Mm-hmm. It was like a version of Tales from the Crypt. It was a shooting star in the rap scene. It was like a few years, and then no one did it again. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Did Ghost Perp kind of step into that? He did not. It was just like terrifying drug stuff.
I mean, I think you had people who made avant-garde stuff like Kool Keith, who would kind of, or like Ghetto Boys would kind of delve into it a little bit.
Shout out to Biz Markie, who's still alive.
Even like Big L and Nas, like the Devil's Son. They kind of they got into it. Oh, the other group I was thinking of was there was one other one. I'm trying to look it up. Oh yeah, 3-6. I had forgotten about them.
Jesus! Oh, the gods.
Yeah,
right.
I knew there was one other big guy, big big dog in the mix there. Yeah, 3-6.
Yeah, God, I forget about them because I just think them as Oscar winners. So they are the Gandolfinis of the bunch.
Yeah. So anyway, horrorcore, a scoffed at subgenre of rap that also had really good groups that sort of touched in it briefly for a little while.
Yeah, like when Eminem kind of went nu metal, would you consider that horrorcore? Not really, right? It's just like
I mean, when Eminem came out, he was kind of horrorcore.
a little bit, right? But not, yeah, a little bit. But in this like Clockwork Orange kind of way, where it was like a little non-committal and a little too self-aware.
Right. I mean, him making songs about, like Kim, like super over the top, mega violent, about domestic violence.
Yeah.
Like it was certainly adjacent to horrorcore.
Yeah, but I'm looking for like the RZA rapping about being like undead and maggots in his brain and stuff.
I mean, that's what you're always looking for, though. Here comes Quo again, looking for the RZA rapping about maggots in his brain.
Love that album
Ho-hum.
so much. Rest in peace, Gravediggers. While we're talking about New York, New Jersey, can we get a Bucatini update?
I have not used any yet.
Oh my God.
I'm treasuring it.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let us know when you decide to
Well, also, it's been
dig
hot
into
as
your
shit.
bench. Isn't there a cold Bucatini application out there somewhere?
Just soak it in water for like 2 days.
A Bucatini salad. Delicious cold Bucatini salad.
No, the issue is the cooking element.
I know, but
Do
like,
you really want like a cauldron of boiling water? Bucatini takes a little while to cook too. It's not your
listen,
not your
it takes
orzo.
time. Yeah, like perfection takes time. This is no angel hair situation. There's no Capelline happening on your watch.
Oh no. Bucatini, you have to cook the empty center hole.
It's annoying, and you got to drain it well. If I'm not a pasta water guy, but it doesn't matter. But I like to drain my stuff well.
Would you like me to give you a couple boxes? Are you fresh out of Bucatini?
I was never able to get my hands on Bucatini. Although I did go online and I didn't pull the trigger, but I found it through various middlemen.
You should have mentioned this when we saw each other last week. I would have happily brought along a little Bucatini for you.
It would be cool if you brought a case of Bucatini to the French restaurant we were at, or the Christmas restaurant we were at.
Hey, you guys mind, cooking us up a little Bucatini in the back?
Christmas in June. I bet you they would have.
It's like a corking fee, but for Bucatini. We'll give you like $6 if you just cook us a pound of Bucatini.
Fellas, we got a policy for the Bucatini. That's going to be a $20 per box fee. That's okay, we'll eat it.
Buka Doncic.
Devin Buka. Yeah, man. I'm set. Thank you though. I'm a standard spaghetti boy at this point. I just go for the regular, not the thin, not the thick, but the regular spaghetti.
Oh, shout out to the spaghetti boys.
Yeah. I've been eating quite a bit of pasta lately. I've just been really into it. I've ramped up my working out. It's really changed my whole vibe.
Really? So this is your kind of carbo loading now?
Unintentionally, but I realize I'm just like, I'm carbo loading subconsciously, sort of like James Gandolfini.
I saw you, and the first thing I said was, Is that two quos?
Ripped.
Like, are there two quos hidden beneath his T-shirt with just one sticking their head out? Like, how is he so shredded?
It's like that famous gangster show on HBO, The Sopranos, about a main character who carbo loads.
Well, I remember how much you struggled to get into the door of the restaurant before you turned sideways, and
I just broke the
sort of
frame
like
off.
shimmied in. Yeah.
Well, I had this new aspiration where have I told you I've been fasting for like from 12 to 12 every day? It works so good. I'm into it. Of course, that's when my sleeping happens too.
What's the benefit of the fasting? I mean, also, does it count as fasting if you're sleeping?
It's a fasting state where I sleep. My hours are crazy right now, so I sleep from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So I'm fasting for like 7 hours, and then 1 hour after I wake up. Just half the day. Just pick half the day where you don't eat anything, because I'm no spring chicken anymore. Like like yourself. And
I'm still confused by the. Are you claiming fasting time is when you sleep?
you can call it whatever, but you're just not supposed to eat before you sleep, like for 5 hours. You know.
No, I hear that. I'm just more confused by like, can I claim that I'm fasting if I say go to bed at midnight and wake up at 7? I'm like, time for me to break my fast.
I think that counts because if you like gorge on gabagool right before you sleep, that's a thing, right?
Well, I mean, I know it's called breakfast.
So you haven't been fasting since this pod started, if that's your question, unless you're eating.
Well, I'm just more confused if you can count sleeping as fasting. That's all.
I mean,
I don't see it that objectionable to it. I just feel like it's like,
right.
wow, yeah, I'm doing this like 8-hour fast every day. It's really like, when does that take place? Between midnight and 8 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, maybe fasting is a triggering word.
It's called multitasking.
Doc Rivers would consider that a triggering word. But I think it just like I'm trying not to eat for like a solid work day before I go to sleep.
I gotta say, I think not eating when you wake up. I know
I love it.
We've learned growing up that that's the most important meal of the day. But I kind of like not eating until like 4.
That was debunked, right? It is not the most important meal of the day.
Never believed it either.
Yeah, nice try, boomers. Not on our watch. Yeah, you just eat when you're hungry. It's like sort of like the 7 glasses of water thing. It's like you don't need to do that. Just drink water when you're thirsty. Like
I just feel like if you don't eat when you get up, you cruise through lunch. By 4, you are hungry, but you're kind of feeling spry.
Listen, I have the cauldron of water on a timer, boiling, so I roll out of bed and dump that bucatini in, man. I just have to get that 2 portions of bucatini in my stomach before I even brush my teeth.
I understand, man. I get it. So,
energy.
So you eat a pound of bucatine when you wake up, and then fast until another pound of bucatine at, say, like noon.
Mm-hmm. And then when you're ready for the bucatine dinner, 2 hours after that. Oh yeah, go ahead. Well, I
want to hear more about this. Yes.
I decided I'm trying to aspire to be kind of, you know who Alex Katz is? Of course you do. But you know that painter. He's like a zillion years old, but he like runs every day. He looks amazing. He's as prolific as anybody. He's making more paintings than the Art Bros and Clandestino. He's just like a beast, and I aspire to be that beast.
Be the beast that you want to be, Andrew Quo.
Live clean. Keep your case of bucatine where it is. I'm living clean now, man.
Well, my recent hobby has been listening to anything by Rx Nephew and Rx Papi that I can get my grubby paws on.
All right, tell the listening audience, our Patreon subscriber kings and queens, who these obscure rappers you're talking about are.
So I was introduced to Rx Nephew probably a couple months ago. Didn't really know much about Papi. But Nephew had a couple songs that got attention for being really outrageous. We're talking about like 10-minute tracks where he shifts from yelling things about the Bible into talking about, I'm trying to think. I mean, it really meanders. But talking, like making fun of other rappers, talking about beating Santa with a hammer. And you're like, this guy's really on some shit. It's quite wild. And from there, I started listening to more of his records, and then RX Papi, who was the guy he was part of a crew with, and then they splintered, and then they reunited a couple of months back. But I was also informed a little while back that they were from Rochester, so I was more and more excited by them, being a native Rochesterian myself. And we've never had rappers from Rochester who made a splash. There was a few sort of like bit characters, like Brother Marquise from 2 Live Crew, or the battle rapper Sonny. So there's been people who were like affiliated, or like guys who had like minor careers. Not to say that these guys have anything substantial, but what I liked is that it was a really unique sound.
Well, what is the cutoff for cities who deserve noteworthy rappers? Is it population? Is it kind of what qualifies Rochester for needing a rap scene?
I mean, I think any city that has like over 200,000 people. You know, you should get a little local love, and especially with Griselda coming out of Buffalo and Stove God Cooks out of Syracuse, I was definitely like, all right, where's Rochester's time to shine? But what I like about these guys is they are completely different from the 90s revivalism that Griselda and that crew is doing. This is the exact opposite. These guys, I don't know how old they are, but they are clearly most, I mean, they even say this, and it's obvious in the music, they are most influenced by Gucci, OJ the Juice Man, and Little B, and Max B. So it's that era, like early 2000s rap is like their wheelhouse. And it might be an acquired taste for some of our dear listeners, and you know, even the ones who are so smart and so progressive that they already have pre-ordered The Joy of Basketball.
Yeah, you sent me a bunch of these links, and you're right. It did remind me. It kind of reminded me of the Odd Future tapes, you know, which were so much more influential than I even thought at the time they would be. But the Lil B is quite the artist, right? And like, I was so into Lil B before he kind of went nuts on Twitter. As a less, I mean, he was a great rapper. He was I even have his book of poetry. But it was what he was doing with the internet. I thought that was so interesting. And these guys that you're mentioning feel like very old school guys, right? Like they are filming videos that kind of remind you of old videos. They're rapping in a style that kind of reminds you of the rappers you mentioned. They're doing the Little B thing in terms of output for sure. Like they're making all these low budget videos, tons and tons and tons of them. They're recording tons and tons and tons and tons of songs. Like their output is just outrageous. Yeah. You know, it's like a video. It's like a video every 3 days seems to come out. I love it. Like I always wanted there to be a basketball show where they like either do stand-up comedy about the night's games or rap a little bit, just like a vlog kind of thing. I thought would be interesting. These guys are cool. Like, it's funny that you bring this up because Tyler the Creator just put out a mixtape with Drama, right? And people are excited because I think you can get it from Dat Piff. It's like a real mixtape. And
it's on Spotify and stuff though too. It's really good.
He's not for me, weirdly, but he's awesome, right? Like, I think as a lyricist, he's kind of limited. I mean, Earl Sweatshirt was the one, and I
just think the production is really excellent on it.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's good, man.
It's a little less sort of overtly Neptunesy than when he first came out, I think. I like it quite a bit. I'm with you. Tyler's albums are not ones that I play into the ground, at least the ones over the last few years. You know, when they first came out and there was a very limited amount of Odd Future songs to listen to, I listened to like Earl and Tyler constantly. But as he's amassed a library, I definitely approach his music with less urgency. But everything I've heard off of this, and I played it once and I played a few other songs off of it several times, it's just good quality stuff.
Yeah, and there's no mistake that he kind of was the one to come out of that crew, because he kind of checks more boxes than Earl does, right? Talk about horror rap, like Yonkers was not horror adjacent, but talk about
DMX,
small cities.
Yeah. Right, but I mean DMX, that's kind of horrorcore too. I mean, it's not, again, not that far removed. He had an album cover doused in a bucket of blood, like he was coming from Carrie's prom. Yeah,
I mean, is new metal horror?
Sorta,
kind of, right? I mean,
Korn,
Mudvayne. Yeah. But yeah, back to your guys in Rochester, man. Like, so
they're not even that far away from horrorcore in some ways, just because the stuff they say is really, really extreme. And I wonder how it's going to be received, because they talk extremely recklessly, especially RX Nephew. And
are they not like socially? Are they indelicate with their language.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Yeah, they're indelicate. That's accurate.
I mean, I love it.
I don't know. They are really, really reckless. They just say anything, and it seems to me that they're recording really fucked up on some of the more wild songs, and they both record, like you can tell, by doing one line at a time, and there's no one writing down verses. So once you get used to it, it sounds normal. But when you first start listening to it, you're like, these guys are the worst rappers I've ever heard, because they're overdubbing themselves and it's offbeat a lot of the time. But once you get into the cadence, like, you can't wait to hear what they say next. And that's like, and there's this element, especially with RX Papi, that is, it's dark and depressing, but he's also really funny. And it's just kind of grimy drug dealer music, where they are not glamorizing it in the way of a Rick Ross talking about, I've got like 100 keys coming in. It's about, I'm selling this to my family members. It's really dark and depressing and grim, but also they both have a great sense of humor and are kind of surrealists and in that same little B way, where they just rhyme the same word. I mean, RX Nephew has like 16 bars where every single last word is like about Lil Reese. Like it's just like weird rap nerd stuff tied in with hand-to-hand drug dealing. And I don't know anything that's really that much like it right now, even though those influences that we mentioned earlier are obvious. So I'm glad that there's something unique coming out of Rochester, and they're interesting and weird, and I have no idea what people's reception will be to them.
Yeah, I kind of was torn both in two ways. Like, in one way, I wasn't sure what the new music should look like. I thought, even though Tekashi 6ix9ine is not a rapper and made bad music, like, what he was doing was interesting in a way that was unique to him. Not to say that everyone's going to be Tekashi 6ix9ine too. And then another part of me was like, well, if you take a step back or a few steps back and you look at this whole thing as a whole shifting, then there's going to be micro scenes everywhere. And we love this, right? Like, I mean, if there's a scene in Rochester, New York, where these guys are producing this kind of music, it doesn't have to be new. It doesn't have to be progressive. It's not old by any means, but like, it should be able to exist. There should be a Rochester scene, because it's easier to make music and videos and get it out there than ever before, right?
I agree. And I mean, with 6ix9ine, I felt like he definitely could not rap at all, and these guys can, and these guys have interesting things to say, and they say it in weird ways. It may not appeal to someone who is very used to like the Illmatic cadence, or even like a 2 Chainz cadence. Like, these guys are in the pocket, like boom, 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 boom. They don't do that shit at all.
Yeah.
It's way more like old dirty Biz Marquee energy. Shout out to the Biz.
Yeah. Is it? Shout out to the Biz, who's still alive as we pod. Is being a rapper these days, is it enough just to rap? Do you have to have your feet in something else, like Odd Future did decades ago, right? Because they had their Odd Future store, they had kind of like their eyes on TV stuff. I believe they tried to do a TV show. Is it enough just to rap?
Well, I would say so, just because you look at the success of guys like Lil Baby. What does he do besides rap? He may have T-shirts or merch or something, and he does concerts. But I think Tyler and Odd Future were the anomalies in terms of.
What about ASAP? When Yams died, he turned into much more than just a rapper, right? If not abandoned rap, maybe.
True. But I think that was also because Rocky is just shockingly good looking.
Yeah, it helps to be the most handsome man on the planet.
Like, well, he's dating Rihanna. Like, oh yeah, it's Rocky. He's a good looking guy.
He has to go from Kendall Jenner to Rihanna, like a normal dating human.
Yeah, it's casual Bumble dates. Kendall Jenner, Rihanna.
It's the Kardashian blessing, man. But the answer is you could absolutely just be a rapper. But you know what I mean? Like, even Lil Baby got political, and now we're not quite sure what Lil Baby is doing, but he's throwing his hat in the ring in some politics stuff now.
You know, we've talked a shit ton about rap this episode, but obviously
Just
we
glad
love
it's
it.
not 90s rap. Yeah.
And I would say the one thing that has always kind of been the case, no matter how much the genre has changed over the years and whatever region you're talking about, the people who are really successful, it's generally a meritocracy. Like, are you interesting? Are you good at this? Are you funny? Do you have something interesting to say? And, you know, I don't like J. Cole, but what he does resonates with people. He's good at something that people like. He is technically a good rapper. You know, someone like T.I., he was a really good rapper. Lil Wayne, really good rapper. And, you know, there are not too many people who are bad at rapping who end up having longevity or becoming superstars. And if they do, there's typically something really unique and interesting about them, like a Jeezy or, I don't know, almost everyone's good at this. So that's why I'm interested in seeing what these guys can come up with, because they aren't great at rapping, but they're really interesting. And I wonder if they actually might be good at rapping. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't believe there's a bad sports take that exists. The worse, the funnier it is. You can just be a surrealist and just name a bad player, and that's not interesting. But if you had, like, in the world of takes, like, I love it all, you know, like, and I agree when you say everyone's a good rapper, because there's no bad rappers. Like, you could just do your own thing. We all recognize bad rap when we hear it, but it's harder to recognize good rap. You almost have to come to them, right? Like, Lil B was mocked because he was different and he didn't rap in a way that was recognizable immediately. Mm-hmm. But no one talks about Lil B in 2021 as a bad rapper.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, was that when Lil B came out, people were like, can you believe how bad at rapping this guy is? Like, this guy can't rap. He's a terrible rapper. And you listen to, you're like,
he revolutionized it.
Yeah, but I like what he's doing.
Yeah.
So it's not bad anymore because he's doing something else. Mm-hmm. And I think this would apply to artwork, right? Well, this isn't a basket full of fruit. This isn't a landscape. What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm doing something else.
Yeah, it kind of exists more in music than it does in painting, because painting has no kind of linear story. You could just, like, there's no real progression because people are always mining, like, old stuff. But in theory, right, it's totally it. It's I love how technology has changed rap music as I'm selling all my vinyl records, like, this month. You could do something and the believability is in kind of its devotion. It's like, oh, I made this rap song. It's like, well, great. No one cares about your spaceship rap with no rhyming. It's like, well, I made 400 videos. Like, wait, what are you doing now? Like, you do a video every day of spaceships rapping with no rhyming? And it becomes interesting because you can contextualize it yourself, right?
Yeah, it's redefining what being good at this means. Is being good at this having the ability to, like, spit a hot 16, like, say, a Tyler Johnson? Or
the hottest, yeah.
Or is it the ability to churn out an unending wave of content that people get excited about because you're hitting them with something new and fresh, and you're not being precious about it, like Jay Electronica, who drops, like, one album every 37 years.
Yeah. I mean, I love the volume of a lot of these young rappers and YouTube and all that stuff. But, you don't have to do that. Like, where's Kendrick Lamar been for all of this? He's kind of been, like, notably absent through the protests, through, I don't know, it's been years, and that's a way to do it too. You run the risk, though, like when Lillard puts out a new song, and it's been much longer than I even realized since Royals, then it's scrutinized in a different way. It's just like, well, this kind of fell flat. And I'm like, right, because she doesn't really have any of the references other than this new song. So I don't know. Like, I think the technology has given us a chance to like make more mistakes, maybe, if you're like a musician or not if you're a writer. Technology has betrayed all writers, but if you're a musician, like, it's cool to see as a fan, it's cool to see an artist work through their process.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, if you're Kendrick Lamar, you have a lot more leeway because you've put out albums like Good Kid, Mad City that is considered a classic. To Pimp a Butterfly was really popular, and I think a strong album as well. And he kind of established himself as, you know, a legend, this like really gifted artist. And he's like, yo, cool, I'm going to take 5 years off. And like, he doesn't have the pressure to say, put out music because it's his livelihood. Yeah. Like, he's okay. He can live doing what he's doing, and he can take his time and put out what he wants. And again, totally acceptable. But if you were in Little B's position, or these guys from Rochester, where they're trying to like claw their way out of obscurity, there's a different path, and it's being a volume shooter, not waiting for that one perfect mid-range jumper.
Heat check. Yeah, I mean, Nosinbin Naomi Osaka can do all the great things that she's doing right now by like taking some time off because she's the second best player in the world, right? And she just won a Grand Slam last year. Bow Wow, you know, like, whatever. We can talk about Bow Wow, but he just came out and was just like, I'm not going to rap anymore because it's way too stressful. And I'm like, dude, totally. I mean, you were a movie star, a kid movie star. Like, you don't have anything to prove.
Bow Wow was also an interesting case because the general response to that would be like, you're still rapping?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you can stop then.
I mean, I'm sure
handshake
like,
meme.
Yeah, he's one tweet away from being like, anything I put out will be clowned, so I'm no longer gonna put anything out because I'm Bow Wow. But yeah, Serena Williams is skipping the Olympics, and her quote was amazing. It was like, I enjoyed not thinking about it, so I'm gonna continue not thinking about it and not do it. Again, she's like the most famous athlete on the planet, so she has that space where up and coming tennis players probably don't, right?
I agree. And I think that's the same as Kendrick Lamar. Like, once you reach a certain plateau, you can start playing by your own rules. Mm-hmm. And even if they aren't rules, you can cater to your own mental health, your what you need out of something, your own sense of wellness, not to be throwing around cliched terms. Mm-hmm. But if you are unhappy, you don't have to keep doing things if you are successful at it.
Yeah, and you know, I pause at always like equating things to like a market, but it's interesting what Taylor Swift did, right? In the quarantine, she kind of flooded the market with new music. All really good stuff, in my opinion. But like, she also sacrificed the gravity of a new Taylor Swift album, you know, which was kind of a cultural event not too long ago. And, you know, when you give people a lot of stuff, it changes the dynamic of the demand for that stuff, right?
100%. I mean, there's no right way of doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, it's whatever works for you, and also just whatever creates quality material. And the quality, of course, is, you know, not particularly qualitative. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I don't know, whatever you think is good. But speaking of quality, let's talk briefly about the mayoral race here.
Ooh!
Because really,
cops sweating.
An incredible ensemble of talent assembled here to become the new his owner of New York City.
It's like a rap supergroup, these guys.
So, a week ago, we were under the impression that Eric Adams was going to cakewalk into Gracie Mansion. As it turns out, the ranked choice ballots make it a little more compelling. So right now, there's a possibility that Maya Wiley could actually pass Diane Garcia, but most likely won't. And then in which case, Garcia will go against Adams, and it looks like she could potentially pick up enough votes from absentee ballots to then become the next mayor of New York. So a lot of compelling scenarios unfolding because of ranked choice. Do you want us to keep it?
Yeah, man, I love it. It's a better thing, and they muffed it, man. They bricked. They included some, what was it? Some like test ballots, a few 100,000 ballots that weren't submitted by people, but they found them, which is great, which is what we want, right? It's like finding like anomalies in the vaccine. It's like every time we do find one, it's like, great job, guys, you know, instead of not finding out. But I think it's a great way to do it. I've always thought it made more sense than putting all your votes into one person. And I know there's been calls for people to get rid of it because it's been a bumpy week, but they just have to get better at it. And I think it's cool. I don't know. What do you think?
I like it quite a bit. I thought it made me pay attention to more of the candidates, and it made me actually rank them and think about things. Sorry, I called her Diane Garcia. It's Catherine Garcia. Sorry. But it made me put more thought into how you rank them strategically and what that could mean down ballot, and who you liked more, and who you wanted to send a message and say, I think this person's a good candidate. They should get the vote, but I don't think they'll win. You didn't have to weigh your heart versus your head. You could just put it in order of how you liked them, with the understanding that it could also be changed by who are the last two candidates standing. I thought it made it far more interesting and fascinating, and created a new subject for conversation that was just different from, oh, I voted for blank.
Yeah, and I think it's great in that sometimes it's what you don't do or what you don't support. And if you leave someone off the ballot, it speaks louder than if you just had one vote, right? If you vote for a handful of candidates in a ranked order and you leave someone like Eric Adams off of it, that speaks a little bit more to what you're thinking as a voter, in my opinion.
What you mentioned earlier about people muffing this, yes, I agree that the election board itself made some rookie errors, and I don't think that should be held against them or a reason not to use ranked choice. Like, yeah, they screwed up, but also this was their first time doing it.
And they found the mistake and fixed it.
They found it, and that actually gave credence to the idea that this is not complicated. The discrepancy was noted very quickly. They apologized. They ran it back. They subtracted those votes, and it wasn't a huge cause for chaos or concern. I don't really know why they announced the results prior to the absentee ballots, because there are quite a few of them. It doesn't seem that productive, but I guess transparency is cool too.
Yeah, I think so too. And we saw how your boy DT kind of took information and tried to spin it early on. But I think having transparency is always a welcome thing, as opposed to like, wait, guys, wait, your minds will be blown in a week. It's like, well, no, just tell us what you have now. I enjoy that personally.
And it is more of a little bit of a horse race too. It's like, okay, so these are the three candidates, but if this one, Wiley is only 350 votes back behind Garcia, but if she passes Garcia, she won't have enough votes most likely to beat Adams.
Yeah, it's confusing.
If Garcia holds on, then it looks like she will beat Adams. Like that's pretty intriguing and sort of fun.
Yeah, I agree. But I just don't understand how Eric Adams was winning 2 days ago and now he's not winning. There must be some shenanigans. Recount. It's just basic stuff in terms of like, we've all watched games before. It's like the Yankees came back, no Simbin. It's like, yeah. But yeah, about the transparency of like making an error. I always, I think it's logical for someone to think like, well, if you found that, what are you holding from us? There must be more errors. Which leads to like my favorite take, like some people have, which is like, if there's no evidence of something, there must be something wrong with it. Which I'm just like, okay, then nothing is nothing at this point,
Or nothing is everything.
Yeah. It's like, you reported no fraud, there must be tons of fraud. And I'm like, ooh, you got me there. I don't know how to respond to that.
I mean, at this point with this election, if it comes down to a few votes, which it seems like it will, we can probably expect some protracted legal imbroglios.
Yeah, Adams has already filed the paperwork for a recount, which he should. Everything he does is hilarious, so that's funny. But I think all of these candidates, all three left, should file paperwork now because we want recounts. We want this to be done right. And at a certain point, when they're in the mayoral office, or Adam's case from somewhere in New Jersey, then that's that.
The Many Saints of Newark.
Yeah. Listen.
Adams saying I'm the swaggiest mayor in history and then losing the primary is pretty good.
He's just very funny. Like, we've been through this. We don't love cops. We don't like Adams, but we kind of love Adams because he's very entertaining, right?
He's a good speaker. I like his voice. Mm-hmm. He sounds engaged and entertaining when he talks about things.
And he's a goofball. He's bad at lying. He has interesting lies.
We found the gabagool, and he just...
We found the smoking mortadell, and it did
and
not
he just
affect
trudged
him.
along. Didn't even blink at the Capicole.
I think I heard somewhere that 75% of New Yorkers did not like ranked choice, but only 20% of New Yorkers came out and voted, which is hilarious. Like,
I was surprised by how many people seem to not fill up their bubs. Like, yeah, I get 5? I'm just gonna keep ranking people. Sure.
Yeah, I ranked down.
Give me another
list.
one.
There was a lot of choices. It was empty in my polling station. I was there with like someone else, and it was like 1 p.m.
Yeah, when I went in Brooklyn, it was a handful of people, and it was early voting. There was not many at all. Before we jump to hoops, I just wanted to mention the heat wave in the Pacific Northwest. I didn't really understand how fucking hot it was.
It's like 114 or some shit.
It's outrageous. I was looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure it's in the 90s. And then I looked, I'm like, wait, did you say it was 116 in Canada?
It's crazy.
This doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
I can't think of ever being anywhere. Well, take that back. I think it was like 110 many years ago when I was in California, like LA, Sacramento or something. Like it got like up into like, well above 100.
My Del Boca Vista ass is like, was it a dry heat?
Right. But 116?
That's high, man. And it's been hot in New York this week, but it's like muggy in New York and gross. So like, I always get confused. It's like, well, it feels like 110, but it's really 100. I'm like, it feels shitty no matter what. Is this cause for an alarm? Is basically the question, right? Like,
I'm not that like interested is the wrong word. It's not that I'm disinterested in climate change. It's just not something that like I choose to read about all the time because I become a doomer when I do.
Yeah.
You're like, we've been blaming people with plastic straws or people idling their cars outside. Like, we know the people who did this. We know the companies that did this. We know the governments that did this. Like, over the last, 40 years, governments, companies, they were just allowed to ruin the planet for humanity. And it's hard not to view it as coming to a place of no return in terms of global warming. When you look at, condos collapsing in Miami, the ice caps melting, like we're like, well, oh, okay. So all of our worst case scenarios will probably be realized at some point. And I kind of look at it in the same way as like Doc Rivers coaching.
Oh, geez.
We're like, I don't think this looks good. This is a bad omen, but maybe we'll be okay. If we get something happens along the way here, maybe we can change the direction and, some other choices we made. And you're like, it just keeps going towards that end. You're like, okay. I know it looks bad, but we're going to sign the Green New Deal and we're going to walk away from this ledge. And you're just like plodding closer and closer. And you just see the whole planet eroding from global warming. And I don't think we're going to be able to stop it. And that's like a fucked up thing to think, but I don't know. I just don't see how any way out of this.
There's a small crew, not unlike a rap crew from Rochester, of like smart people with no political affiliations. They're just like scientists, and they kind of give me hope where I do fall into despair, where they're just like, listen, the world adapts. It's not like the whole thing being like everything's cyclic. They're like, no, it's changing. We're acknowledging that, but it's not going to be your science fiction doom thing. Like, the world has been changing at this rate for thousands of years, and we just have to adjust with it. Like, human beings are adaptable, and that gets into a more doom and gloom place, which is like most of the world's conflicts are environmentally based. Like, people move where water is, or move where comfort is, and that causes displacement and a lot of conflict, and that affects our like trade policy, and that affects like wars, and you can almost trace back every major war to an environmental issue, which is crazy.
And of course, as is typically the case, the people who are the most impoverished and the most desperate are the ones who are most impacted by climate change.
Yeah, it's tough
story
to
about
tell.
people in Pakistan. Like, yeah, it's 126 degrees here. It's like kind of too hot for human life at this point.
Yeah.
Like, well, we can't leave though. This is where we live.
It's wild to think, like, when we were in school, thinking about where the great civilizations were near water, right? Like Mesopotamia and Egypt, and like that's not quite the case in 2021, where like, I mean, there's still many people who live in those places of water. But I was reading about some woman who fell out of a plane as a kid, and everyone else on the plane died, and her parents just said, in the jungle, just like find water, and then eventually you'll find people. So she found a river and just followed it as it got bigger and bigger, and she found a little village. Because I don't know, it just makes me think like living is an extremely complicated idea, but sometimes it's a simple idea. Like, we need resources to sustain ourselves, and if the Northwest is going to have this every summer, the Trailblazers are going to move to a small market like Brooklyn.
I just look at it as like, you know, I do believe that the impact of humans on the atmosphere and has created this.
For sure.
I'm not a scientist. I also look at it and say, well, droughts, floods, hurricanes, the fires, like, we're just going to render large areas of the globe impossible to live in unless you have no options whatsoever. And then going back to what you were saying before, what that leads to.
Yeah.
And conflicts and, you know, genocide and mass movements that are
refugees
are not good for I'm not refugees, people fleeing those areas. I get it. Get the fuck out. I'm saying like mass movements, whether it's religion based or politics based, right, or ethnically based, like just the turmoil and tumult that kind of hostile environment lends itself to amongst humans.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's wild, and yeah, I don't know. I definitely am not nihilistic about it. I think like it is cause for a lot of abstract and concrete concern, and we're seeing it. Like, it's wild. You know, of course, as a New Yorker, I want to like mock everybody who complains about the weather. Like people from LA being like, "It's been raining for a week." I'm like, yeah, no crap. But like, it's weird, and I kind of want to. I'm no historian, but like, go back and see if there's a precedent for any of this, and if there's like a realistic solution, because Miami real estate is booming. Like, that place is I was there 4 years ago for Art Basel, and it had rained, and the whole place was like under 2 inches of water in South Beach. And I asked someone at a restaurant, I'm like, is this normal? They're like, yeah, every time it rains. There's like nowhere to walk without just like walking through water. It's like, it'll go away in a few hours, but yeah, it just floods every time it rains. I'm like, this can't be good. But, you know, like, Miami's still got that culture, man.
Yeah, it's that white hot culture they have down there. I mean, according to Scientific American, Miami is the quote most vulnerable coastal city in the world.
Yo, it's like wading through water, like cars driving slow because they were driving through water.
Wade County, baby.
Yeah, but it's a wonderful place, man. Shout out to Miami. I'm into that city, but like, the real estate is like doing really well there. People kind of aren't scared.
Well, with that incredible segue into basketball
Of not being scared.
about not being scared. You know who wasn't scared last night? Chris Paul.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Patrick Beverly.
He wasn't scared either.
Nope. Yo, kind of a disappointing outcome in that it was kind of a blowout, but it's cool to see Chris Paul get the accolades he's been so deserving of forever, right?
Yeah, my Gen X contrarianism is like, well, why is everyone praising Chris Paul now? Do I need a new take? I've been Chris Paul day one. I've been saying this guy's the greatest point guard who ever lived for a decade and was scoffed at, laughed at, humiliated.
It's
bullied.
funny how his nickname is the Point God, and everyone's like, he's not that good. Someone online was just
years.
It's like, what about Jerry West? I'm like, are we doing this? Like he would beat
Years of
Jerry
people
West
trying to
for lunch.
argue that he wasn't as good as Darren Williams. Like, get the fuck out of here.
I mean, Chris Paul, as Cookie's mantra, has no weaknesses, right? Like, this is a perfect basketball player.
The perfect guard.
More perfect than the next guard.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been the best. I mean, I really do think he's the only player. It was early in LeBron's prime. You know, LeBron may have surpassed him or continued to be better than him, depending on how you put it. But
LeBron.
I do think that season when Chris Paul was with the Hornets,
Tyson Chandler?
before he blew out his knee, that was the closest rival to LeBron in terms of like just caliber of player. Like KD, incredible too. I mean, you could put KD in that mix, but there was a year. It's the only year when I could say LeBron might not be the best player on the planet. It might be Chris Paul.
Well, yeah, I have that feeling about KD, but Chris Paul, it's hard because Chris Paul is so diminutive, right? And for someone who's 6'6", I don't know what that feels like. But I think that goes to play a lot in his story, where people are like, he's awesome, he's a point guard, slot him in as a small guy on Team USA. And I'm like, yo, he's better than the big guys, man. This guy is just like the heart and soul of every team he plays on.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that KD didn't have an argument some seasons, but I just don't think KD was as well rounded as he is now. You know, he was not a great passer. He was not a great defender. He was certainly an incredible scorer, maybe the best of all time. I think that's
I have
a
KD
possible
over
thing.
CP3. Yeah, I'm not fighting this. Like, KD to me is just
But
out
to
of
me,
this world.
that 2009 Chris Paul, he's still only 23 years old. I mean, he put up 22.8 a game, led the NBA in assists with 11, led the NBA in steals 2.8. I mean, shot 50% from the floor. He was just outrageously good, just incredible.
And it's funny seeing the basketball community kind of like overwhelmingly embrace him, because it's a year of embracing cops, and he's a cop on the court, man. He's trying to get people kicked out. He's egging people on. He's snitching on people. Like, he's a great villain. He's so good that like you kind of side with his villainy, right?
Yeah, I mean, that version of Chris Paul, just when he was still athletic and still had springs, was just freaking crazy, dude. I mean, he led the NBA in defensive box plus minus. Like, led the NBA.
Good rebounder,
While
good steals.
also leading it in assist rate and, you know, having a true shooting percentage about 60%. He was just outrageously good.
Yeah, and the idea of him being a choker in the playoffs his whole career was laughable, because his playoff numbers were insane. Just insanely good with the Clippers, right?
But, yeah, it's funny because this season, teams that people liked are out. People like the Celtics, and people like the Sixers, and people like the Knicks, and people had feelings about Brooklyn, and people like the Lakers. And, you know, this year it's like,
In terms of popularity.
in terms of people having a favorite team or having, you know, an investment in a player or a team.
Not
and
like
this
to
year,
win it all. Yeah, right.
It's like it's out the window. No one cares about the Bucks. No one cares about the Hawks. No one cares about Phoenix in terms of like having strong emotions about them. So now we're like Phoenix all the way. We collectively, as a basketball audience, want Phoenix to win.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, there are, of course, Hawks fans and Bucks fans who feel differently.
Oh, yeah.
But out of people who are agnostic, it's just Phoenix all day.
It's such a weird playoffs without LeBron, right? because LeBron carries so much of that narrative weight on his shoulders, whether that's debate over the GOAT, hating him, treachery, loving him, what kind of player he is on the court, what kind of leader he is, Space Jam. And not to have that deep into the playoffs is weird. Everyone's just like, well, do we have to talk about Chris Paul now? It's just like, unfortunately, because there's no other more interesting player left.
Right, and we don't have Harden, we don't have Curry, we don't have Durant,
Nolan's Noel, for sure,
or Randall.
We can't really do our normal IQ talk because he got bounced in the first round.
Well, there's also the idea of legacy, and I think so many conversations now revolve around that idea that like we define players by their postseason performance, and that's how you build a legacy. It's championships, it's performances. It's not necessarily saying this guy was a great player. It's like, yeah, but what did he do? How do we calibrate like his place on this all-time list? When I think it's really unfair to someone like Tracy McGrady, who is one of the best basketball players who's ever lived, but never had much postseason success. And that's the huge strike against him, that he has no legacy. You can't say, oh, he got 2 chips. Oh, he led this team to the finals 3 times. Tracy McGrady was unbelievable. I would take Tracy McGrady over Kobe if we're playing a pickup game with them both in their prime, 100 times out of 100. Yeah. That's not a slight to Kobe. That's saying how good prime T-Mac was. He was unbelievable.
And
I would take him over. I would take him over Dirk. I would take him over virtually anybody except for like 5 dudes in history. He was that incredible of a player, around 2003 or whatever that.
It only lasted a few years. He got hurt, which sucks. But
no legacy.
No legacy. Yeah.
So, sorry. I was just going to say. So I'm with this idea that we want CP3 to win because it'll cement his legacy in a way that him just being this great is not good enough for people. He needs to win that chip at 34 years old, and we can say, like, okay, finally, you're great now. After everything you've done, you're great. We acknowledge you.
And it's going to be frustrating because if he takes this down to a coin flip in Game 7 and Devin Booker bricks a free throw, everyone's going to be like, CP3's a loser. I told you so. And I'm like, dudes, the Sixers were a quarter away from the conference finals, which is not that different than getting bounced a quarter away from the conference finals. Like, CP3 has been amazing forever, but we need this qualifier, which is fair, It's like we need to see some actualization of something. It can't all be hypothetical.
Right. I don't love the idea of defining players by their legacies, but I understand the convenience.
Yeah, and I think Kobe Bryant never winning an MVP is really odd, right? Because he was so popular.
Well, he did get one, and he beat out Chris Paul in the season when Chris Paul was much, much better than him.
Oh, did Kobe get one?
He got one. He got one.
Yeah.
And that season was an interesting one in that it was really between Chris Paul and Kobe, and their 2 teams were neck and neck in the West for the 1 and 2 seed. They played during the last week of the season. Chris Paul had a lousy game. I don't remember if Kobe had a great game or just scored a lot of points. I don't recall exactly the box score numbers, but the Lakers won, became the first seed, and then we're like, okay, Kobe's the MVP. And to me, that's a good example of what you're saying. It was like, if Chris Paul just had one better game, he would have won MVP, and Kobe never would have had one. Yeah. But Kobe got one because everyone kind of hinged their decision on that game and who the number 1 seed was.
Yeah, man. And we have no choice, right? We have to go with results. And if you're on the fence and that a player wins or succeeds in a way that another player doesn't, sure. That's the way it goes. It should be ranked choice MVP or ranked choice legacy, right? Because CP3 would probably be on a lot of people's second and third choices and end up winning. But what's up with Frank Kaminsky not protecting CP3? Yo, what's up with the entire Suns team not getting their guys back? Patrick Beverley,
at least Crowder did. Crowder is about that life.
A bit. We've all seen Crowder lose his shit before, And he was kind of angry, but it was kind of more of a confused angry. Like, what is happening? Is someone going to get kicked out? We were celebrating, and now our dude was just assaulted. And I'm like, yo, we can knock Kaminsky all day for being a stony dude, being like, what? But that entire team did not have Chris Paul's back. There should have been punches thrown, right?
I mean, I hear you. And the play that Andrew was talking about, if people missed it, was Patrick Beverley during a stoppage in time. Chris Paul walks by him. Unclear if he said something or just made eye contact.
For sure.
Either way, said something or like looked at him a certain way, whatever it was.
Sure.
I don't know if Beverley has said Chris Paul specifically muttered this. Yeah. It wasn't apparent that he said something out loud.
Yeah.
But you couldn't tell. And Beverley turns and basically shoves him extremely hard in the back with both hands.
Running
Chris
start.
Paul collapses in a heap.
Smiles, takes the heel roll.
And yeah, I agree. The Suns did not, surround him as aggressively as I would have thought.
Yo, I mean, throwing punches.
If you're not going to throw
stupid.
punches and like get in a fight and get suspended, I'm just surprised they didn't it didn't become a scrum. Everyone kind of stood around.
That's your aging veteran leader who just won MVP of the series. And you're going to watch him get shoved to the ground and just be like, what was that? Did you guys see that? I'm like, yeah, we all saw that, dude. Like, what the hell? So I don't know. Whoever comes out of the East should manufacture through their media mafia that the Suns don't like Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked someone at least trying to grab, Beverly by the throat. Just because it would have you wouldn't have gotten a technical or ejected. Like, everyone would have understood that there's going to be a reaction if you do that. And the Suns were kind of like just vibing.
Yeah, like Joel Embiid displayed more acts of aggression towards John Collins in the game than the Suns did, as their dude got knocked to the ground in the middle of their celebration.
Yeah, Kaminsky kind of like half-heartedly pushing at Beverly, but in the way of like, oh, get out of here, man.
Yeah, exactly.
After he's like, just shove Chris Paul to the ground.
It's like, refs, are you seeing what Patrick Beverly's doing? Like, come on. I'm like, yo. I was just very surprised at that reaction because, of course, they're celebrating and their minds aren't in protect mode. But if you saw your leader go down in a heap like that because of Patrick Beverly, I was just surprised at the reaction, is all.
Yeah. You just want to see some fisticuffsmanship out there.
I just want to see some enforcing, man. Like some garden enforcing, some dogs.
I would like to see that as well. Other NBA news. We've got two injured.
To the Sixers, right?
Well, let's actually talk about that very briefly, or just the Dame Lillard situation, because I don't really feel like talking about Giannis and Trey's injuries because it's sort of sad and we don't really know what's going to happen with that series. And it's hard to care. It's so hard to care about that series when the two superstars are out.
I'm going to be a dad and just quickly say, like, fucking good times are fleeting, man. Enjoy it while you got it, because you go up for a rebound and Giannis is different now in a blink of an eye. It sucks.
Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about rehashing the amount of injuries and whether there's an asterisk this series.
There's no causality and all
whatever.
that.
I'm just saying you play who's there. Like, it is what it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So Dame Lillard, Portland Trailblazers, superstar. I'm sorry.
So well rested. I'm ready. Welcome to Cookies.
Oh, I mentioned Heatwave, Pacific Northwest.
Gabagool.
Oh, right. Dame Lillard. So Dame Lillard, who had vowed to stay and lose in Portland for his entire life, seemed very proud of that idea. Now doesn't want to stay in Portland and lose the rest of his life. Apparently.
He wants to join the chumps like James Harden.
Yeah, that's what he wants to do, huh?
Yeah. I mean, maybe he will be interested in joining a small market just like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden did.
Yeah, I think he wants to go to like Minnesota.
Or Brooklyn, yeah.
Just get out there and play for, who'd be a good one for him to join? Maybe he can go play for the Pelicans.
My hottest take with Dame Lillard is that I think he gets so much praise heaped upon him and this is CP3 related, as CP3 like is known as a choker. Dame Lillard has some of the most memorable moments in basketball history, so I understand why this happens. But like people talk about him as if he was CP3, and when Dame Lillard becomes maybe available this offseason, I'm like, yo, he's going to be very expensive, and he's an excellent player, probably all NBA for the next 2 years. But he's not a CP3. Like he might not change the outcome of your team as much as you think.
Well, Dame has been in a ideal situation if you want boomer accolades. And there is, of course, a ceiling on it because what boomers really want is that championship. But they will give Lillard tons of respect for being a good shooter, for hitting some big clutch shots because he has done that before, and for sticking around in Portland, even
Loyalty.
though everyone knows he's probably not going to win a title there. But people say, I respect that. Yeah. Unlike these other schmucks, he's willing to stay there and hope they improve and be the face of the franchise for his whole career. And we know how good he is. But, you know, Dame has never really been a threat to the greatness of guys like Curry or the guys like Harden or the guys like Chris Paul because he's never had stakes. No one has ever said this will define the legacy of Dame Lillard because we've already defined it. Yeah. That he is one of the best deep ball shooters of all time. He's a great offensive player, and he's just not the kind of guy who can single-handedly take a team and make it a champion. We've already decided that he is that guy. This is not to say that he is not an alpha male, but we've decided he is just not on that level. But you put James Harden on a team, can they win a title with James Harden? No one thinks that a team led by Dame Lillard with like a reasonable assemblage of talent is going to compete for a chip. Just no one believes that.
Right.
So now it's like, well, can he go somewhere, play with superstars, and then redefine his legacy as like a champion versus a very good player who wasn't in the conversation?
Front runner, whatever, boomerisms there are, bandwagoner. Beyond all the take-it-tude, I love what Dame Lillard's doing now. It's just like, yo, I'm not going to get it done in Portland. Put me somewhere where I can get it done. I'm like, yes. This is what we've loved the whole time. And the thing that he's critiqued as recently as last year about players changing teams, specifically Paul George. And I'm like, yo, what Paul George did was awesome. Not only was it best for him, it was best for us as fans. It sucked for Oklahoma City because they lost a really great player. But, like...
It also enabled them to... They didn't have to trade him. They could have said no.
And they got a lot for him.
He had a couple years on his deal. They could have just said no, man.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It enabled them to embark on a rebuild that they clearly wanted to do.
Yeah. Awesome rebuild. Yeah, I agree, right? And, like, I don't know. I mean... Chasing boomer hypocrisy is endless. Chasing any hypocrisy is endless. But I don't care what Dame Lillard said last season. It's cool that he's asking for a better opportunity.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I think players should do what they feel. If he felt as if I want to spend my entire career in Portland and that's significant to me and it has a symbolism that is worth more than potentially winning a championship, then cool.
Yeah.
Then cool. Your decision. If you change your mind, also your decision. You are not obligated to stick out the next 5 years in Portland because you thought that way one time.
Yeah,
Like-
just changes, right? Like Harden's like, yo, I love being a Rocket. Morey leaves. He's like, well, that was my guy. I'm out of here. Like I don't want to stay at a bar. Like if me and you meet up and we're having a good time, a great time, a champions celebration, and you're like, yo, I gotta bounce, I'll be like, oh, I was having a great time 5 minutes ago, but I'll leave too. It's just like, yo, stuff changes, man. And these guys, as we see with, not to get all weird, but as we see with Giannis and these guys getting hurt, like Dame should just put himself in the place where he can succeed if he wants that success.
And I think with Dame, his ceiling changes, but also his reputation might change. Dame might come up short, and he'll lose that cachet as like the good soldier. He might end up getting the same scrutiny if he misses some big shots that has been attached to other players. Dame is not a high percentage shooter.
No.
He's a deep ball guy. He's efficient, but he's not a high percentage shooter.
He's a free throw guy.
Like Dame gets the line, but Dame might get cold. He might miss some big shots.
Yeah.
And that will define him in a way that has not been defined in Portland because we don't care about the results in Portland because there are no expectations to begin with.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's not like top 15, I believe, in 3-point percentage this season. There's better shooters out there. But
what I mean is that Dame is a great scorer in the composite, right? Mm-hmm. But he is someone who also, shoots like 39% from three. That's great, but he takes a lot of threes, and he shoots 45% overall. So my point here is he's a great scorer. I'm not knocking him on that. I'm saying late in some games, when the season comes down to it, Dame's going to have misses because that's what happens. Dame's going to miss some shots, and people apply the same scrutiny that has gone to Chris Paul and has gone to Kobe and has gone to guys who are in the eye of the storm.
LeBron James,
LeBron.
The one player I thought about the most when Dame announced that he was, or we found out about all of this, was Chris Bosh, because in Toronto, Chris Bosh was just like a behemoth of a player in every sense. Big fan, volume dude, alpha. And then he goes and joins up with the Heatles, and his narrative changes, right? And even when you see him on The Jump, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, should Joe and Ben...
Did you say the junk?
The junk. What is this, a prequel? I think people view him... Rachel Nichols always has to be like, remember that we're talking to a Hall of Famer here. He is in the upper echelon of basketball players' history. But I think we view him as like a front runner and somebody who like tagged along and got a chip with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. And I think that upsets Chris Bosh. I think he feels a certain way about it, as he should. I mean, Scottie Pippen. And Dame Lillard might have to contest with that changing of his story, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into like Simmons trades, Joe trades, but I understand why Philly would be a spot where someone could say, look, he'll be the perimeter threat and Joe is the interior threat, and that's the backbone of a potential championship team where they would share that responsibility. And you're like, that I think that's how Dame's legacy would be best decided, right? If he just joins somehow, the money doesn't work, but like Kawhi and Paul George, like, all right, that's a super team. It doesn't quite work. Like you might be Bosh, you might be Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Like the trio makes it tough if you are not the one of the two.
Yep. I mean, I went through every fan base's. I tried to find every fan base's Twitter, and everyone has lousy trades for Dame Lillard. Like all of our picks and our second best player. I'm like, why would Portland do this? Like
Kevin Knox straight up.
This like everyone except Randall, and I'm like, that's not enough, man. Or it's like, why would Dame want to come if you like strip the cupboards of Booker T?
Well, clear, yeah, that's for sure. But also, Dame Lillard is signed through 2025. Portland doesn't have any reason to trade him.
No, I mean, these deals are more suited for CJ McCollum. Maybe.
He's under contract for 4 more years. Like him being like, now I want out. So?
Yeah, I just don't think
just
Portland
re-signed.
should do it. Yeah, there's no deal out there that's good. I think, not to get into Simmons territory, I think Simmons on Portland is really interesting. But I don't think Morey does that deal, and I don't think Portland does that deal.
Yeah, I don't even really want to discuss that until we have more time.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like people haven't really talked about it from a basketball standpoint.
Yeah.
You have Philly fans who just want Simmons out.
Yeah.
And we can get a star back? Do it. Make it happen, Daryl. I'm like, well, let's have it as a real basketball conversation. Like, what are the pluses and minuses of actually doing that deal from a hoop standpoint instead of like, I just want Simmons' face out of Philadelphia.
Okay, so we got Simmons out of here, and we added Dame. Now we just need to add a versatile defender, on ball and off ball.
Exactly. Like I think having the basketball conversation about that trade is interesting and fun. I think it's been overwhelmed by people who are just like, fuck that dude, ship his ass out and give us a star. Like, well, yeah, but that's a That's not what we're doing here. We're talking about hoops, not who you don't like on the team.
Yeah. I was
Anyway.
I was amused. Side note, real quick. No sin bin. There's a really great first baseman in Philly, Reese Hoskins. No sin bin, and he's kind of a beast offensively. And Philly fans roast him because he's a terrible defender. And I'm like, oh, now they value defense. I thought it was just. He's like, he's committed so many errors. Get him out. He's not a winner. And I'm like, defense? You're talking about defense?
Defense? What?
Yeah.
I thought, interesting. I thought it was about getting these shots up.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did it. Knocked out yet another pod that was more perfect than the one prior.
I was worried for a second, but we got there.
I was never really that concerned because we always get there, but I know what you're saying.
Wow.
Confidence. Sexy.
I love cookies.
Cookies.
I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.